United States colored troops. And these men came from all over the states. They came from various backgrounds. And I'm going to lead into their stories, but I want to first talk about mine. I stand here today as Major Van Surrey DeGrasse. I am the first African American to be admitted to a state medical society, Massachusetts, in 1858. I studied in Paris under Dr. Van Prue, one of the foremost surgeons in the world. When I came back to America, I sought a position with the United States Army. I wanted to do something for my people who were down south. At that time, 4 million black people were enslaved in the South. As one of the only black doctors, I enlisted in the Army, and I received a commission with the 35th United States Colored Troops as their regimental surgeon. I'm proud of that. You know, can you imagine me stepping off the boat in May of 1863 in New Bern, North Carolina, a major? I'm sure I shocked a lot of people. I constantly had to fight my way through. As the general said, you have to have courage. I had courage. But there's only one. I was the only doctor in the field in the Civil War. The only one. People had problems with that. Well, you got problems anyway. But I was here, and I was here to do a job, and I was a darn good surgeon. One of the best. But I want to introduce you to some of the other men who I served with, and they're going to tell you a little bit about their story. First of all, I want to call on my good friend. Come on forward.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Have you guys ever heard of this small community east of New Bern called James City? It's a small community, but actually it's called the Trent River Settlement or the Trent River Camp. That was where if any slave could make it to the Trent River Camp, they were considered to be free. So we had people coming from all over North Carolina to make it to this Trent River Camp. So you see, I'm a descendant of that camp. I lived in that camp when I was 2 years old. Because once we took the land, we could stay there until the last person moved off. If I had known that then, I'd have built a house there. But I didn't. But nevertheless, while people come from all over North Carolina, I may be your cousin. You know, in fact, I may be related to a whole bunch of you guys in here.
That's right.
You know, but in this little small community, before African Americans can be confined in the war, when they got to this camp, General Horace James asked, how did you get here? You know, through the enemy line, how did you make it here? And when they told them, they hired those people, slaves, as spies to take them back the routes that they went. So you see, we was fighting for our freedom long before we was legally allowed to, because we took those same soldiers back behind the same lines and the same paths that we went to get there to box them in. See? But nobody tells that side of the story, you know. Now, let me fast forward just a little bit. Because of all these people making it to that camp, and trust me, they're good people in all races, okay? Horace James, to me, was an excellent man. And the people of that community thought he was an excellent man because the name James City was named after Horace James, who was sent to the Trent River Camp to take care of Negroes' affairs. Okay, he was a chaplain that was sent there to take care of Negroes' affairs. And after all of that, he started the first schools in North Carolina. The first schools was in James City. He started 5 schools in James City. He branched out to do 8 more in New Bern and went up as far as Goldsboro. So before 1865, he had 16 schools started for African Americans. Nobody tells you that story. It ain't written nowhere. It's definitely not in your public school systems, you know. So it's a lot of these little things that we know. If we don't tell these stories, who will? You know? So if we don't do a little bit of research and a little bit more reading, then how will we know where we really come from and what we're really about? So the small community is celebrating on July the 4th weekend. We have a James City Day every 3 years. So this year, of course, we celebrate 400 years of being here. July the 6th, you'll see us in uniform. James City still have an original slave quarters. So if you want to see original slave quarters, we'll be there. We have people dressed in period times. And I know you've all seen this picture of all these slaves lined up in front of a slave house, a traditional picture, where we got our own that we made. So come in, you know, we actually sell slaves there. There's a song called Beat 'Em Up. If you hadn't heard it, Google it. It was written by a black man, believe it or not. It tells you about how to sell a slave. You know, it's called Beat 'Em Up. So we'll be playing that song as I have people walking across the stage. And this is how we get donations for the community. So you had to buy a slave, you know, for 2 seconds, you know. And I also have, I have some very fair-skinned people in my family, you know. So we had the white man going into the shed with the husband sitting on the porch, and he walks by and speak to him and keep going in, you know. Then the little baby comes out, you know. So you know where the baby came from, and you know what happened. Some people get upset, but it is what it is. You know, I ain't making this up, all right? I have a man hanging from the tree, you know. I don't have a head on it, I just have a body, stuff from straw hanging from a tree. Again, some people get upset, but I said, wait a minute. You guys talk about, you go to church and you sing, what? I'd be buried in my grave before I be a slave. So that man hanging in that tree is really my hero. Because he sacrificed his life so that he wouldn't be a slave. Okay? So we have all these things going on. And I really like the part when after the thing, you look to your left at the slave quarters, you look at the man in the tree that's hanging. I have you do that 3 times. And then I have President Obama walk out the slave quarters. So I say we went from the outhouse to the White House, you know, and all this takes place on January the 6th. So, pretty powerful message, you know, so if you get an opportunity, please come down. I'm not like the gentleman here, I haven't written a book, but I read a lot of it. And it's funny, you read a whole lot more when you get grown and out of school than you do in school. You do everything not to read a book, especially not to write one. But this is a small community that has so much impact on Eastern Carolina. And a lot of people really try to avoid it or dance around it, but it's actually there. And there's a lot of history there, and I would really invite you guys to come down and just share some time in New Bern and just talk to some people in New Bern. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Sarge. And James City was the largest freedmen's camp in the state. It had over 5,000 slaves who fled there. And that's why New Bern became the center of Civil War recruitment, because it was felt there were so many there. In fact, one of the most iconic pictures during the Civil War was a picture of slaves coming to New Bern. And we sometimes think that as they were coming, many of them wanted to join this unit, and I could just hear them saying, "Oh, freedom! Oh, oh, freedom over me, and before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave, and go home to my Lord, and be free." Come on, Fernie, tell us a little about yourself.
My name is Fernie Bryant. I was born to Moses and Donna Bryant in Lenoir County. I stayed as a sharecropper until I was about 30 years old when I heard about the freedom. And I wanted to be free. And I ran away 7 times, and they brought me back 7. But on that 8th time, I ran away with nothing but the clothes on my back. But this time I'm gonna make it. And when I made it to New Bern, I bent down and kissed the ground, because I knew I was free. At least I had a chance to be free, and I wanted to be free. So I searched out the black troops and I joined them. Couldn't read or write, because they didn't allow that where I was at. So I worked during the day and I went to school at night. I studied under Lieutenant Covington, and he told me, he said, "You're a smart young man, you got a chance to go somewhere. I'm gonna tell General Burnside about you and see where he will recruit you." He told General Burnside about me. General Burnside said, "Son, come here. I think I'm gonna make you a sergeant. You done ran away so much, you got to know all the routes. So I'm gonna make you the sergeant, and I'm gonna put 100 men behind you, and I want you to go back behind them lines." I took that 100 men, I went back behind that line. I saw the Confederates going through, looked at them, said, "Boys, I think we got one." We camped that night, followed them, and come to find out they had a bunch of gold on that, in there with them. So we stole all the gold, because we know goodness well they ain't gonna fight if they ain't getting paid. So then when I got back November the 1st, Colonel Burnside told me, he said, "Son, you did good. Now we can pay our troops. Matter of fact, we might even give you a little bit of money." So November the 1st, he made me first sergeant. I mustered out 1863 in New Bern. I got married to Amelia. I started working at what they call the Mayola plant right there in New Bern, delivering milk, taking care of my family. But then the Confederates started bleeding back in. I had been free for a little while and I felt free, but as they started coming back in, I started seeing prejudice and racism and all that kind of stuff. And I told my family, I said, "Look, we're going down Florida, we're gonna stay with the Seminoles. At least they treat us like people. Because these people make me want to go back to war. And I've already fought my fight, and I'm gonna go down in Florida." And I went down there with my family, and I went to Nassau County, and I died in 1900 in Nassau County. Thank you.
These soldiers, they had a lot to lose when they put on this uniform. As soon as Abraham Lincoln said that he was going to allow black troops to fight, Jefferson Davis stated that any troops led by a white officer would be treated as insurgents, and the white officer would be treated as leading insurgents. Black troops in uniforms would be either re-enslaved or dealt with as insurgents. And you know insurgents mean that you'd be killed. So there was a huge penalty on these black men. There was a huge penalty on these black men. And that's why when they marched in the battle singing, "My eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is stamping out the vintage where the face of wrath is stored. He has loosed the night and lightning up his terror horse with sword. His truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
I have seen him in the watchfires of 100 circling camps. They have built him an altar in the evening doing them. I can read the righteous sentence by the dim, flaring lamp. Our God is marching on.
Marching on. Sing.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory.
Washington. And when General Wild brought his African brigade by to liberate the plantation, he gave me an opportunity to see that there was another way. So I joined the 35th United States Colored Troops and served for 2 years. And I want to point out just two things that made me be able to do two things. I was able to get one of these red sashes and sergeant stripes because I worked in the house when I was on the plantation, so I was able to get some reading and writing skills. And so that made me have some skills that were needed in the unit when it came time to serve 35th. So I was able to get promoted a lot quicker than some people were, simply because I had the skills to be able to do a few things that some of the other troops couldn't. And then after the war, there was a general called General Butler. He decided he wanted to create a medal just for African American troops. And so he did that. And that's what I'm wearing today, the Butler Medal, which is a special medal because it's made for black troops from the Civil War. Thank you.
Well, we're going to have a seat and we're going to call forward First Sergeant Singleton. First Sergeant Singleton is a unique individual because he was born in New Bern of a slave mother, an Igbo slave, and a slave-owning father. And his wife did not want Singleton to be in the family around, because all she could think about was here's this child, this outside child that you've given, brought into this household for me to see every day. So he sent the child down to Adams Creek, which is about 30 miles from New Bern. There he was raised by his mother until finally she really didn't want him around, period, and she begged her husband to sell him. So he sold little Singleton, 8 years old. Sold him down to Atlanta. Sold him to a white woman who raised children like pullets. You know how you have biddies, and you raise them up, you feed them, then they upsize, and then you can sell them, right? Right. And it increases their value. So this slavery thing, as the general said, is a thing. It was a thing of money. It was industry. In fact, did you know that slavery financed the Industrial Revolution? There was so much money made by the wealthy people off slavery. In fact, the slave ships, they set them up, they had stock. You could buy stock back in the 15th and 16th centuries in slave ships. You know, there's a great way to invest and you were assured by this money. So that this is a great economic enterprise. So little Singleton, he went down to Atlanta. He didn't like it at all. He wanted his mama. What 8-year-old didn't want his mama? So guess what he did? He ran away. He ran away from Atlanta, and from Atlanta back home is about 400 miles. Could you imagine at 8 years old? He knew where he wanted to be. And that's what's so awe-inspiring about this whole thing. That we, as African Americans, have endured so much. But we have worked to be successful, despite all the barriers of racism and others that we have fought against, as Maya Angelou said, and yet we rise. And so he made it all the way back to his home. And this is a true story. He has a book, The Life. My life as a slave, ex-life, as a slave. And his book is in the Library of Congress and probably available to many of you today. Do you have his book, Sarge?
Yes, sir.
Sarge is going to come forward and he's going to talk about this extraordinary individual. after 8 years old, and then he made it back home to his mama, and she didn't want him sold. So you know what she did? She put him in the potato bin. Anybody know what a potato bin is? That's a place under the floor. You know, potatoes, you keep them a whole year if you keep the light from them. I'm a city boy, but I know about potatoes. Sweet potatoes too.
Sweet taters and white taters.
You know? You put him under the floor. So she kept him under the floor. Kept him under the floor for 2-3 years. And he would come out at night or other time to finally the owner knew something was up. And he kind of felt that was going on, so he waited and put a piece of bread on a post out in the yard, and he waited. And he grabbed it. He promised not to sell him again, but I'm cutting it on Sarge's story. Come on, Sarge. Come on, Sarge. Let us.
Good, Sergeant.
Tell us, Sarge. I can't tell it like that.
I remember the story very well. Once you're a slave, it's almost like owning a dog. Your dog has limited mobility, limited rights, limited, can go places, you have to feed him, you have to take care of him. So my life, as that was that. As he said, I stayed in the potato bin for 3 years because what happened was I found out my father was my slave owner's brother. And I was considered a mulatto, which was a very, very, very light-skinned Negro. Oh, you, okay, yes, you fall right in that category, sister. And it was kind of hard around the plantation because when folks come over to see my master, they would know that was their relative. So what they did, they had to get me off the plantation. That's how I got down in Georgia. But it was marvelous how I came back to North Carolina. It was nothing but the grace of God who led me back. But as I got back to New Bern, I found out that the Confederates had started forming. I first was working for a Confederate officer in the Civil War, working for a Confederate officer, until I found out the Union had just captured New Bern in 1862, March 14th. They just captured New Bern. When I found that out, I said, that's the time for me to escape. So that night I escaped, and I found my way to New Bern, and I joined the 35th. But before I can join the 35th, we had to prove that we could fight. It was always saying that the slave will run as soon as they see the first musket, or as soon as they see the first Confederate soldier, they will run. So what I did, I drilled a bunch of ex-slaves, people that made it to New Bern. We drilled with corn stalks as rifles. Yeah. We marched down the streets all times of the night. And I recruited 1,000 men, freed men, to be part of the first North Carolina volunteer group. So when the word came down from Abraham Lincoln that we can fight for our freedom, we had 1,000 men already ready in New Bern, ready to go, ready to sign up to this 35th U.S. Colored Troops. And we fought. Our first major battle in Augusta, Florida, we lost 230 men in the first battle, mainly because our leadership sent us into an ambush. Instead of retreating, he kept going, boys, kept going. And we was cut down, 230 was killed in that first battle. Myself, I was wounded in the right knee by a 58 caliber Enfield, the Confederate shot. But the moral of the story, we survived. The U.S. colored troops survived, like you said, it was 210,000, but it was 40,000 that lost their life. 10 got killed, and there was 30,000 that died from dysentery and wounds. Because you know in the Civil War, if you get shot in the arm or leg, they cut it off. If they couldn't cut it off, you were through. You was through. If you couldn't cut nothing off, you was through. So the story to be told is that our people suffered, and we're suffering today. We're enslaved today. We'll just mention how many people we have in prison.
Right.
Education is one of the things that's on a little totem pole. So the job today is to reach one and teach one.
Yes.
Pull up your pants and be a man. Amen.
All right.
So that's the story of the 35th United States Colored Troops. How much time do we have? Is that it? Is that the end of our time?
Really, it is.
Okay, I want to thank you all.
May I ask you one question?
Yes.
You were saying the year that came about, since I'm a mulatto, I'm interested in it, that when it was, did you say it was approved or it got to where it was known that the white woman was having an affair with a black man? What year did you say that was?
Oh, that's been going on since
Well, I
the
know it's
beginning.
going on now, but
From the beginning of history. What happened, when you put people in the same class, they're working together,
That's right.
then they're gonna commingle.
But I thought the black men always had to sit back and watch the white man take their woman.
I'm talking about early on. Early on. You see, we came here in 1619. And, well, you know, women are adventurous. I'll leave it like that. And so are men, right? But a major part of that is that, you know, as a black man, we're all handsome, right? Black men.
Yeah.
You know, we're all handsome, we're all men, you know, so, and then when you think about it, we're exotic. You ain't seen a lot of us. You know, we're curious, right? No, I'm talking to the